introduction, and it's especially a pleasure to be here because I live in Oregon. I took the treacherous 40-minute ride down from Bend to get here today in the snow. And like Robin said, a lot of my work has been focused around funding at the undergraduate level, master's level, doctoral level, professional fellowships, which are also a form of funding. But today I wanted to shift gears a little bit because another thing that I do is coaching. I do coaching for students and even professionals at early and mid-career to help them get into these professional awards, academic awards. And one of the things that has always come up is this question of why you? So today's keynote is about how to nail the most pressing question of your career. And as I mentioned, just a little bit about me. I'm the founder of an organization called ProFellow. At our website, profellow.com, there is a huge free database of about 2,800, more than 2,800 programs, awards, fully funded graduate programs, summer fellowships, academic fellowships, you name it. And this site is completely funded through advertising and partnerships with universities and fellowship organizations. So it's great. People who come to ProFellow, you can read about different fellowships, how to win them, and then also, we get to partner with organizations and learn more about who they're looking for, what type of candidates could benefit from their program. So it's a really fun project to work on. And in addition, I'm an author and I'm a speaker, and I've gotten deep into the graduate admissions world, so I've worked with a lot of young people helping them get into graduate school. Now, my personal story is that I've always had a unique knack for getting into competitive fellowships. This is something that came really early in my life, and I actually went to an under-resourced inner-city high school in Wilmington, Delaware. My guidance counselor didn't think I had any chance of getting into an Ivy League school. That was unheard of because the school that I went to had very few AP classes. I had only a 1250 SAT. But I was a straight A student. I was involved in every activity. I was very, very driven, and my dream school was Cornell University. Now, I had one unique superpower that people didn't know about me, and that's that my father was a Lutheran minister, and he taught me the art of storytelling. So storytelling was something that I used to get into these competitive programs because I always integrated a story into each of the applications. So when I applied to college, when I applied to fellowships, when I applied to graduate school, and then even later in life, I got into business accelerators, I got a book deal. I found that storytelling is the key that helps you overcome the challenges of, maybe you don't have the highest GPA or other things. So that's just my personal background. And then I started to teach people the approaches that I was taking in my application. Now, when I first started, I didn't really know if this would work for other people. You can think, well, it's working for me, but how do I know? So since the last several years, I've worked with students of all types, all different backgrounds, genders, races, income levels. Actually, most of the students that I work with are first-generation college graduates, so they're the first in their families to go to college. And these are just a few of the students that I've worked with. And when I've taught them these frameworks, I was finding that it was working for other people. It really was working. And so some of the results of just the program that I launched in 2019 is that we've gotten out of about 300 students, 545 master's acceptances, 147 PhD acceptances. We've had 51 fellowship winners, and the students have won about $35 million collectively in graduate funding. So I passed some stats. I've always been really focused on the funding because that's really the biggest barrier for students that are going to graduate school and even college. So for me, I understood this from my background, that funding was like the biggest piece that's missing. So for me, I always made a very specific focus on the funding, but when you get to the graduate level, it's merit-based funding. There isn't a whole lot of needs-based financial aid. So the biggest questions that we ask all throughout our careers is why you? Why you? Every time you apply to a job, every time you apply to a university, anytime you apply to anything where there's other contenders, we have that question, why you? And then especially for graduate school, why this program? And why now? And you've got to nail these questions because you're up against tens, hundreds, if not thousands of people, right? So especially for the really, really competitive programs, you've got to be very specific about what it is that you're trying to achieve. So this is what students get really stuck on. Why me? I don't know. or they have some confidence, but they're not sure how they compare to their peers. And so, I talk a little bit about putting the hero in your story, your application story. And you might have heard this before. This isn't a new concept about using the hero's journey, storytelling in your application. And so there's this idea of a hero. And it is actually a very critical piece of a winning and compelling story is the hero. Who's the hero? Now, I always use a little framework with students to think about the story and where the hero plays in. So I have a very, very simple framework that I teach the students. I call it just the winning application story. The beginning of the story is you today, so you always have to describe your background, passions, why did you get to where you are right now, what have you done to prepare yourself. Then the end of the story is actually in the future. The end of the story is actually after the program, after graduate school, after the fellowship. And so that future goal is usually the career goal. So where do you want to be post-program? And you got to be pretty specific. And then the middle is the hook, is like the hero. The hero is the thing that's going to get you from where you are now to where you want to be in that future goal. So, students have heard this framework. It's not where they do it, they kind of think of it intuitively. But here's kind of what happens. The student typically will make themselves the hero. They think, okay, I'm the hero of the story. And the reason they think this is because they are asked all questions about themselves. What have you done? What are your career goals? Why do you want to go to this program? Why do you want to do this now? It's always questions about them. And so naturally you think, okay, I have to prove to them I've done all of these things, I've got all of these skills, I've got all of these experiences. I'm the hero of the story. I have to prove to them what my superpowers are. I need to prove to them why I'm the best person for the job. And especially students that come from low-income backgrounds, often they are coached into talking about their challenge stories, their trauma stories, whether they've dealt with poverty or they've dealt with other types of challenges, abuse. There's actually research that shows that students from low-income backgrounds are often coached into talking about their trauma because then they can show resilience, they can show that they've overcome things. That's their superpower. So we see a lot of stories where the student is the hero in the story, or the applicant or the young professional, and they try to write their personal statement or their cover letter or do their interview in this way. But the thing is, that's not who the hero should be. That's why I put the big X. So the applicant is not the hero of the story. The hero of the story is the selection committee. And I'm sorry for the poor models that were harmed in this Canva rendering from this. This is my rendering. So actually, it's the selectors. The selectors are the hero of the story. Because if you think about it, they're the ones that have the resources, the networks, the coursework, the opportunities, the experiences that they're going to give you to get to the future goal. And the reason they're asking a lot of questions about you is because they want to know, is this somebody who has a big goal? Are they going to fully leverage the resources that we're going to offer them? And are they really going to make a social impact in what they do in the future if we make this investment? So they're the hero of the story, but because the students get so focused on making themselves a hero, just unwittingly, they often miss the opportunity to tell the selectors why their resources are the very thing that they need to do their future goal. So I try to steer students in this direction and applicants to say, let's think about how you can frame this cover letter, this personal statement, your interview prep, so that you're really couching the selectors as the hero. And here's going back to that application story. This is the framework. I actually have applicants sort of jot this out in the beginning so that they can think about what is the overarching story of my application before they write anything, before they get recommendation letters and do personal statements and write cover letters. So let's just talk about the story. So the beginning of the story is that brief career summary. So wherever you are up until now, you have to explain the why of your career choices. Why did you choose that major? Why did you take that first job? Why are you so passionate about this side project that you're doing? So the why, maybe you have 2 to 3 career highlights, that's it. Usually there's not enough space to write show at all. You do have your resume that's going along with it. So you have a very brief career summary. And really that summary too is just to show I have the prerequisite skills. I have enough passion for this topic, and this is where I am now, and the next thing is going to be the future goal. The end of the story, because every applicant is asked, what are your goals, whether it's a career goal or other type of goal, and I say, try to link it to something that's in the future. So the opportunity itself is not the goal, because if you stop it there, that's the end of the story, is the opportunity. The goal is something in the future, the career goal, the outcome goal. So make it really specific. And I've made applicants do this a lot, is when they talk about their career goals, they get really, really specific. So rather than just say, oh, I want to work in international development. Well, there's thousands of jobs in international development. Get down to like a type of job title, a type of organization, and then a very specific social impact outcome that you hope that you can help achieve, the thing that you're contributing to. So it's about your personal ambition, what's the type of job that you want to have in the future, but also through that job, what's the impact that you want to make on other people. And the more specific that you can get about that, the easier it is for the reader to visualize the future you as they're reading your application, so it makes you more memorable. They can easily see you in the future as they're reading. And then you nail them with the hook. The middle hook is why the opportunity is the hero of the story. And then this is where you can get really specific about why this program or job or opportunity is the thing that's going to get you from where you are now to where you want to be in the future. So then you can detail some of the specific resources, the people, the experiences that you have, and why those things are going to get you to the future goal. And the detail is important. Sometimes there's a lot of detail about the applicant's background, and even a lot of detail about the career goal, but you also need to be very specific about why this program. Because again, they might have tens, hundreds, thousands of applicants. So then you can get really specific. And so the hook, if you got a really good hook, is that you make it sound as if I don't get this opportunity, the future goal, impact goal, may not be achieved, right? So what is so unique about this program? What does it offer that I can't get anywhere else? So I try to help applicants get really specific about all of these factors: background, future goal, and then the hook. Now, you don't have a lot of word space to do this, but you can be surprised how much fluff and repetitive jargon that you typically see in most applicants' personal statements and cover letters. So if you can get them to really think about every single word in their application, adding specificity, this is what makes for a really compelling application story. So then going back, if you're teaching others, about this application story, here's a couple of benefits, and this is why it works so well. So one, it really does make it more about the future-facing information. Most of these awards and programs are not an award for what you've done in the past. They're actually investments in what you're going to do in the future. So although you have to show past accomplishments, really the future-facing information is what the selectors want to hear about. They want to know, where are you going to be in 5 or 10 years? So let's get them excited with the future potential, because they're trying to make an investment. Think of them like investors. And then secondly, it shows them that you know what their goals are. I say even graduate schools are training programs. They're training people into specific career tracks, specific opportunities, right? They're not just there because people love to learn. They want a type of student that's going to use the program to get to a certain career goal that's in alignment with their mission. And this is true for jobs and for other competitive opportunities like fellowships. And then finally, when you couch the selectors as the hero of the story, it also helps to show them that you're thinking about them as future collaborators, not as judges. A lot of students have a very fear of failure, fear of rejection. The process of applying to any of these things is very scary. We feel like we're being judged. But really, I try to get people to change their mindset about the competitive application process. Think about these folks as future friends, future collaborators, and your job is to make it easy for them to say yes. That's your job. If you make it hard for them to say yes because you've lacked information, they can't do their job and you can't do yours. So there's a two-way street here. And then when students hear that, they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like, let me help them help you with the specificity. All right, so that's just the overarching, oh, this is my favorite quote. The prepared will succeed. None of this stuff is easy to do. I always have to remind people, applying to graduate school, applying to college, applying to jobs, none of it's easy, right? But I think in this age of AI and shortcuts, and you've got to figure out, and there's so much competition. I mean, really, I still think the people who are the most successful are the ones who put in a lot of high effort into what they're doing. So it's really more of a matter of quality than quantity. So rather than doing the spray and pray, sending out 200 job applications, maybe just focus in on 10 of those job applications and go deep, go far, make connections, do a bit more, be the above and beyond candidate. And as you do that over time, it will become like second nature. So that's why I always tell students, the prepared will succeed. And I always say your level of effort is directly correlated with the level of success that you're going to have. It doesn't want to go. Well, I think my last one was just a thank you. It's a thank you. All right. Well, thanks. And it wasn't set up for questions, but please go ahead. I mean, yeah, do a question on them. Go for it.
So, how does your message change with the federal cuts to institutions, research institutions? My son was accepted for a PhD program and just got a letter from the University of Oregon 2 days ago that said his offer has now been rescinded due to government cuts.
Well, I will say so the question was, what do you do in a situation where students are getting rejected really for reasons that are out of their control, like the federal funding cuts to the universities? I mean, unfortunately, this is life. I mean, we don't have any guarantees about getting into anything. There's no guarantees about funding. There's no guarantees about jobs. We do have to prepare our young people for the idea that even when you work really, really, really hard, an opportunity may not be there anymore. Or it may be given to somebody that had a special in or had some sort of circumstance that is unfair, and these things do happen. What I hope, though, is that students don't lose their passion and their light. I hope that your son will reapply, and I do hope that there will be an opportunity for him to get into another PhD program, maybe even looking at overseas PhD programs. I did an overseas PhD, had an extraordinary experience. So I don't want them to lose the idea that there is an abundance of opportunities, but we have to keep trying and going for it because you can't control what's out of your control. So I hope that, I know that we're going to have to talk to the students that are getting these rescinded applications. Here's the good news: they got in. Do students these days have any idea how competitive PhD programs are in this day and age? I do joke about Cornell because I would never get into Cornell now, today. I always say that all the time. My SAT score and the fact that the applications have gone up exponentially since 1997 when I was applying to college. I mean, the competition is unreal, but it doesn't mean that there isn't opportunities out there. So what I'm hoping is that students don't lose the drive and the passion to keep trying and to look for different types of opportunities. I mean, you never know. I mean, maybe there will be something that will come up this coming year, a fellowship or a job opportunity, and they might find themselves even on a different career track. So let's work hard to keep their optimism up. Any other questions? Anyhow, go ahead.
Just a comment.
Yeah.
Because I want to back you up on what you said. I work with Kim, and we work with young people, and I couldn't say strongly enough, or more emphatically, that what she said wasn't just fluff. You try to tell young people all the time, don't change the goal. You may have to change your approach or your tactic. Kim knows this about me. I ran the Boston Marathon a couple years ago, but it took me 5 years to get there. I tore my meniscus, I had hernia surgery, COVID hit, there were no races. I didn't change my goal, but I did change my approach. I changed my diet, I changed my training, and I look back on my life, getting into college, getting into a master's program, was just what she just said. You really don't know, but if you stay focused on that goal and just remind yourself, you may have to be amendable to what life throws at you. So just in case anybody was sitting there going, oh, okay, that's not going to be very inspiring for a young person, it is so absolutely true about life. don't change your goal and keep chasing after it, especially someone I know, you say your son, right, Mr. Jackson? Very smart. He's gonna get there if he doesn't change his goal. So I couldn't help but get up and say, I love her response. I think it's everything our young people need to hear. Keep going. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, for the people that got across the board rejections and didn't get any offers, I mean, I think they're going to be in a harder spot than the person who did get some and got them rescinded. Once it got rescinded, I would ask the schools, how many people applied and how many people got in? I mean, it was probably like a 1 to 3% acceptance rate, so that should be something they are extremely proud about. And in fact, they can leverage that for the next application. There is other countries too and other places, even within the US, there's other places that will be very happy to have your son's level of skills and expertise in what he's doing. So it might just be a little bit of an unexpected twist in the road, but it's gonna be okay. He got into PhD programs. This is no small feat, so let's just remind people actually just how well they did by just getting an offer in the first place. And then, just keep in mind, sometimes I think we just have a very narrow vision of the opportunity that's out there. When I do my workshop later today, I'm going to show you Pro Fellow. Usually people are blown away when they see all of these fellowships that we've come across. I did 4 fellowships earlier in my career, and I found them by doing deep internet research. And the internet wasn't what it is now, back in the early 2000s, but I used to go and dig and find these fellowships that no one had ever heard of. I got to go to Germany, I worked in DC, I went to New Zealand, and they kept, every time I got something new, it opened up another door that I didn't expect. So for me, I have a very optimistic view about the abundance of things that are out there, but until someone experiences that, maybe it's harder to believe. But let's just keep throwing opportunities as we find them to our younger people, because I know it feels very competitive and very, disorienting right now. They feel like they just can't get their foot in the door.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else want to ask a question? Otherwise, I'll let you eat your desserts.
Well, Vicki, with the fellowship options, are you seeing that same thing happening across the board with fellowships right now, or is your database
a
being
lot of the
compromised?
fellowships have been paused. Fulbright, a lot of the U.S. State Department fellowships, but I will tell you, Fulbright is like a very, very well-known international exchange program. I'm sure all of you have heard of it. I even did a Fulbright mid-career in New Zealand. That's how I got there. But Fulbright is not the only international fellowship. There's actually loads of international fellowships. I'm often trying to push applicants to think about these other opportunities because they don't get nearly the number of applications that Fulbright gets. So I think the other programs, I'm thinking of Luce Scholars and Schwartzman Scholars, these are programs that are broad, Rotary Peace Fellowship. Even individual countries have their own fellowships where you can go and spend a year, and the country itself will fund your study there. So I think, let's look at the alternatives. Those groups are going to have a heyday, but a lot of students are still not aware of the alternatives. So that's what Pro Fellows for. So yeah. Well, Robin, I think I'll hand it back to you. Did you? Okay,
I've got
and I think it's just like